Titans fans, hello and welcome back to the Two Tone Crew. This is episode 142. I am one of your hosts, John Boy, and we are the official podcast of TitansReport.com. And we are very happy to be talking to you again tonight because the Titans are sitting at 2-1 after a big time win over the Seattle Seahawks. Jamal is joining me once again. Welcome back, Jamal.
Thanks, John. Yeah, internet should be working better. At least it seems to be. So hopefully a little less aggravating.
Yep. Hopefully we'll have you consistently this week. And Scotty is back again as well.
What's up?
Well, guys, lots to talk about from this game. And like I said in the opening there, Titans sitting at 2-1 now, heading into this, the final game of really like the first quarter of the season. I know on the podcast, we usually like to break it up into quarters, and that's what a lot of coaches and teams do as well. So for this first quarter of the season, Titans are in a great position right now. They had the opening loss to the Raiders, and then, of course, beat the Jags handily, and then put up 33 points on the Seattle Seahawks, which I can't remember my exact quote last week, but I had some line. I think I said something to the effect of there's no way they're scoring 30 points or something like that. And I never thought this would happen. I'm not sure anybody did. I mean, the over-under in this game I thought was a lock. I think it was around 40, 42, 45, something like that in terms of total points. And, of course, with the final score being 33-27, they were well over that. But this was a really, really good game for the offense. The first time in a while that the offense has really performed like this against this type of defense, because last year, we talked about how great the wins were against Kansas City and against Denver, against good defenses. But in those games, the offense kind of sputtered and made just enough plays. They had a few really good drives to get those wins. But this game, I mean, the offense really powered and carried the team. I mean, the first half, the game looked exactly how I think most people expected it was going to go down. It was 9-7 at half. And then in the third quarter, the Titans just exploded and had 21 points and then added another 3 in the final quarter of the game. But, I mean, this has got lots of people talking around the league now about this offense. I mean, there are multiple breakdowns you can see out there of people taking this, especially the Titans' run game and all of the fakes that go along with it. And people are really starting to get excited about this offense. And I think, in turn, I think fans have a reason to be excited as well.
I saw a tweet or something, I can't remember where it came from. It said a year ago, exotic Smash Mouth was laughed at. Now it's feared.
Especially this time last year, right? Because it was, the first game was the big letdown against Minnesota with the turnovers. But yeah, that's true. I think a lot of people are talking about exotic Smash Mouth in a very positive light now.
They possibly played 2 of the better defenses in the league and lit them up.
Yeah, these past 2 weeks. Yeah. But yeah, 33 points. I never expected that. And I think really we had the turnover against Jacksonville, but these first 3 games, that's the only turnover, right? Mm-hmm. Just that one interception.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, we're protecting the ball, and Marcus is avoiding those game-breaking type of plays that he suffered early last season before he really started to get hot in the middle of the year. And I mean, it seems that he's really protecting the ball well. He's throwing it away. He's not hesitating to throw it away. This game, he started off kind of rocky. There were some throws that he definitely missed. I think he was playing safe early. But then, man, I mean, the drive before the half was big time. The drive to go back down the field and get that 3, because we dominated. We dominated the first 2 quarters. I thought, really in terms of field position, but we just didn't have a lot of points. And then the Seahawks come down at the end and get that 7. So it was really good to get that before the half and be able to go in up 3, or up 2 rather.
Yeah, I'd say the first half, early at least, I don't think we were dominating. It was just defense. And Malarkey did mention a little bit how, some of the issues were just execution, where of the, I want to say in the first half, 12 missed passes, something like 8 were because wide receivers weren't where they were supposed to be, which is why I always have trouble with grading quarterbacks, because even when you think he missed a guy, if he's throwing to a spot and the guy isn't there, that's not necessarily on the quarterback. But um, they had a lot of defensive performance, and then all of a sudden it just started opening up where, we had some drives stall out to end up with only 9 points in the first half.
Right.
And Seattle, it seemed like from that drive to end the first half on, their offense was moving. And,
Yeah.
it took some penalties and some of those fourth down necessities because they were losing and they had to get touchdowns. Otherwise, they would have scored even more. I mean, their offense was clicking the second half, and so was ours. It was an interesting second half, first half difference.
Yeah. Is that right about the 12 passes? Because he finished 20 of 32.
Yeah,
so
it must have been over the whole game.
That was over the whole game, yeah.
Yeah, it has to have been over the whole game.
I would
I
say
know that they were talking about the premise of his comments was, what changed between the two halves, and he was talking about execution, but and that was his example, but it must not have been first half only stats because he was 20 of 32.
Yeah.
I saw
But
he
yeah.
finished 18 of 23 after the rocky start.
Okay. So yeah, the majority of it was in the first half. Oh, more than half of the misses were in the first half.
Well, and I mean, even just the running room, there was none. Like, they were getting hit behind the line of scrimmage all the time. In the second half, it was rare to even have to avoid a guy in the backfield. They were consistently churning out yards.
Yeah.
It was, it's similar to last week where it was almost such a big difference that the easy answer, and I wonder how much more than this there is. We can get into the idea of how you can set up a team in terms of your play calling and your play design, set them up for failure, which is, I think, linked to a lot of our big plays this week. But even just, them not getting into the backfield the way they were in the first half, is it just as simple as we wore them the out?
That's definitely part of it. But also the 2 field goal drives, those in the first 2 scoring drives, they went on long drives, and Mariota scored on the rush.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the questionable hold.
I felt like they were starting to get it together even before Seattle scored the touchdown before half. So
yeah, I think we should have scored even more points in that first half. I mean, we had 3 good, solid drives.
Yeah.
They just stalled out,
And
which is something we got to get over.
Yeah, still the red zone performance still isn't what we're used to. I mean, a lot of their touchdowns this game came on big plays, right? We had the 75-yard run. We had the, I think it was 55-yard catch to Richard. And then the Jonnu pass, I guess that one might have been just outside the red zone.
24
yards. Here say 24 yards. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I mean, the red zone offense still isn't clicking like it was last year, to your point.
And one thing we haven't seen so much, and part of it is just the way the game flow has gone, it has enabled us to just go so run heavy, and we're having so much success with it. But I don't feel like we've seen a passing offense that is like a sustaining passing offense. We've gotten big plays, and the run game is able to sustain drives, but I don't feel like we've had a lot of drives. I guess the drive right before half was one of them, but that's a kind of a different offense when you're in your hurry up. But, where we've been able to just go, 8 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, and just get a lot of passing plays with success. I don't feel like we've seen that from the offense yet. So that's something, to the extent we may need it at some point. It will be interesting to see where we're at on offense with that.
I felt like after they couldn't run in the first half, that they actually did turn it more over to Mariota, and he was just dropping back and throwing, intermediate, shorter passes, and they were moving after they did that. So I kind of think they did start doing more sustained passing offense. It just wasn't they actually tried about 4 deep plays, and he ended up running or he didn't like it downfield. You could tell, but had some deep drops where he was going to throw it deep about 4 times, and he never actually tried any of them.
I was trying to think, I mean, it's kind of linked to the same point, but I was trying to think of, what could you possibly be disappointed with over the last 2 games? What are some areas for potential improvement or concern or anything? Because at this point, it's just like you're almost giddy how we've been able to take these 2 defenses and just wear them out, and the second half is just offense. I feel like even our explosive plays have been less about individual performance and almost more just a true compliment to play calling and like it's the coaches. The players are executing it. You have to do that to get the success, but it's not, our guys are out there getting open, the quarterback is hitting them, and those are resulting in big plays. It's like we've got an offense that confuses the heck out of people and we execute it and they're screwed. And if at some point, and this is kind of where I was going, like if at some point respond better with game film and everything else, they start responding better to the scheme and predicting it better, being a little less confused, can we do the same thing?
Well, I wouldn't sell them short on the execution, because where I thought you were going is just how well they are executing, like in terms of, well, like the Richard pass and the run by Murray are both perfect examples of just like this total team commitment to blocking, like all the way down the field. When you follow Fowler on DeMarco Murray's run, he's with him the whole way.
And Rishard Matthews had no business scoring his touchdown. Like he had 3 guys that basically cornered him, and he just kind of spun out of it. And it was like they were surprised he even tried, and so he was able to score.
Yeah,
the player execution is there, but I guess it's a little different. I'm trying to think, like Doug Baldwin was consistently getting open, right? And he was producing plays in the passing game because he was consistently able to just individual execution as opposed to sort of a team view.
I don't know what you're saying. I think they do need a more efficient passing game, especially to the receivers. But I kind of chalk that up to Davis being out, Taylor being a rookie, and Decker not complete. One of the positive things is I think that's going to get better. That's definitely going to get better. And when you start adding Davis to what they're already doing, they really have some matchup possibilities. But they do need a more efficient from the pocket passing game,
and one that's not like truly reliant on scheme.
I think they did that more in this game right here, though.
It could be. I'm thinking of mostly the big plays, so maybe I'm just like missing the boat on all the rest of the passes.
Well, he was 22 of 30, right?
Yeah,
20 of 32.
Yeah, so
20 of 32.
You take out the 2 big pass plays, and he still completed a lot of passes against the Seattle defense, and they scored
pretty low yardage overall.
The crazy thing is
partly what we were trying to do, I guess.
Once they scored on they scored on 7 of 8 drives. That's crazy against the Seattle defense.
Right. Exactly. I mean, yeah. And I don't think we need to belabor the point because it's something where I'm trying to think, okay, what haven't we seen? What could there be? This was a great offensive performance. I don't feel the need to sit here and nitpick it and say anything otherwise.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, though. You take out the 55-yard pass to Matthews and the kind of schemed up pass to Jonnu Smith, and you don't have a lot of sustained passing.
Well, you got like 100 yards left. I mean, there's not much there.
But I think this is
part of that is the run game has been so dominant that you don't need more. Some of it's just the game flow hasn't required it. So we'll see what we get. By the way, I probably do have to say, I would be interested to see, how would you define Matthews in terms of have I sold him short? But I mean, yet another big play. So at some point, I have to compliment him, right?
Well, I was telling John before you came on that I heard or read, I can't remember, last 16 games, he's got 69 catches, 100, well over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and like 15 and a half yards per reception. So that's pretty darn good the last 16 games.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how I view him, I think he's like your ideal number two guy. I think he's like a perfect complement to what you hope a guy like Davis can become. I don't think he's your Julio Jones, but he's like your Mohamed Sanu, the guy who he's just reliable, and he's definitely got the familiarity with Mariota. I mean, we've seen that big time already in these first couple of games that Taylor and Decker have struggled to make more of an impact, and it's been a lot of Delaney Walker and a lot of Rashard Matthews like we've seen in the previous year. But yeah, I mean, I think Rashard is. I think last week I think he's just underrated in terms of. I don't think he's just another guy. I think.
Yeah, he's better than number two. I think. I don't know how you label him, but number two is. I mean, the last 16 games,
I think a lot of fans just say, he's just another guy. You could almost plug in anybody there, and I don't. Yeah. I definitely don't think that.
And I think that's more of how I have defined him historically. I mean. He's not bad. He's not a problem, but he's not that great. And I just feel like the more and more and more he comes up with, he's the one having the big plays. At some point, I have to look at it and say, he's probably more than just a guy. He's probably, like I wouldn't want him as our number one, but he's functioning that way and delivering when
we need to. That's what he's been, right?
I mean, Eric Decker is not our number one right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you go against a defense like the Seahawks, and I don't know how much Sherman was lined up on Matthews. I know he was lined up on Decker quite a bit, but yeah, I mean, he produced. He had the big one for 55 yards, but he still had 6 total catches. So I mean, he was targeted 10 times. So yeah, I mean, he's heavily involved. And I mean, speaking of Decker, we got to talk about that sideline catch. That was a thing of beauty. The pass, the catch against a guy like Sherman. Some have said that, that might be one of Mariota's best throws of his career on the sideline against an elite defender and fitting it basically right where he had to. And Decker got, just both feet in bounds, barely.
Yeah. What's funny about that though, is if Decker didn't make such a good catch and get his feet in bounds, then people would be saying, he threw it too far outside.
Probably so, yeah.
Receiver to do that. It's kind of funny how that works. But, it was a great play and very well executed by both players.
I think it was a way better throw than catch. And it was a good catch, but it was an awesome throw.
I haven't gone back and watched that one yet, but I still remember when it happened, I was like, that was a catch? Like, I could have sworn he didn't even get in.
Yeah, as soon as he caught it and they said it's in, I'm like, oh, this is coming back.
It was good coverage, too.
Sherman it was.
Great coverage.
Yeah. Yeah, and we didn't talk about the play yet where Sherman had the hit on Mariota out of bounds. And, I mean, that kind of changed the game. I mean, the offense really, after that, it was like they were playing with a little bit more fire than they had before. And this turned into a pretty chippy game. I'm sure the weather had a lot to do with that, how hot it was on the field. But that really seemed to wake them up.
Well, yeah. I was happy to see the response, and I think that, yeah. So here's the question. Did you guys listen to the Mike Mularkey show this week?
I have not, no.
I listened to the press conference, not the show.
Okay. I came in like in the middle of his answer on this one, and so I was hoping one of you would have heard the full answer. I could have sworn he was saying the reason Sherman wasn't ejected is because the penalty didn't count since it was offset with other penalties. And if that's true, that's absolutely preposterous. There is no way that's how it's intended.
No, it's not. I heard one of the refs on the broadcast explain why.
Yeah, what's his name was talking about it? Pereira?
Yeah, it has to be 2 like dead ball. One of them can't be during a football play. It has to be like 2 after the play or dead ball type stuff.
That's so stupid. That's so stupid.
He basically said, like, per the book, that was the correct. That second one doesn't factor in.
What I thought was interesting that he said was they were going to go to the competition committee because they did not think it was right to offset and for the defender to still get a free shot on the quarterback, which I actually agree with. You have to do something to make it where the defense still gets penalized for hitting the quarterback, after the play or out of bounds or whatever.
Yeah, you get a personal foul and it just doesn't happen to count for anything meaningful. Counted toward. So which one didn't count towards the 2 required? That one?
Well, the first one was for taking off his helmet. If
Right.
he did something else like take off his helmet, bump a ref, come out on the field when the defense, something like that, it would have to be that.
So because the hit on Mariota was part of the play.
Bumping a ref's automatic.
See, that's fascinating to me because I feel like you can easily argue Mariota was out of bounds. That's the end of the play. Hitting him after he's out of bounds is after the play. Like
that may be what Malarkey's arguing or submitting. I don't know.
There's so much, like, the way that penalties offset in general. I always think it's so stupid. A defense can have, like, everybody can have a foul and you only get one of them. That's so stupid. There are a couple of things with penalties that I feel like they should just rethink how they.
Here's the other interesting thing about this. Did they call out the wrong number, or did Lawan actually not get flagged? Because
they said 78. Yeah, I think that had to be the wrong number.
And when I went and looked back on I'm looking back on this is the ESPN box
I think it was score. Spain and Conklin.
Yeah, they actually called it on Spain and Conklin. That's what they have here as well. And
I don't think Lawan pushed anyone or touched anyone. He just got in Sherman's face.
Yeah, and it was
his hands
glorious.
Oh, I thought he might kill someone or
oh man.
I really thought he might just go, no telling how far he might go.
I hope he kills JJ Watt this week. What a loser. Like his side compliment to their backhanded compliment.
I need to watch that because I'm pretty sure he probably said it with a smile. Does that change your opinion at all?
No. I mean, he's saying it with just there's an ego involved there to be saying something like that. It's not like he's trying to like be a jerk. It's that he thinks he's so good he has to comment on, I'm going to do so well. I apologize ahead of time. Like there is an ego involved. He is such a douche. I'm sorry. I hate the guy. And I hated him before he was even as good as he is. Like there's just a persona thing there that drives me nuts with him.
Well, connecting him to this game, I think he might be against the best offensive line in the league.
Yeah.
It can't be understated how good the Titans' offensive line is. Pass blocking, run blocking, screens, you name it. They can
consistency.
Do it all.
Yeah.
They don't have they have no weakness. They can seriously do it all.
Did you guys have the stats on pass blocking? I don't think we've referenced those, but I saw some floating around this week. Just in terms of how many pressures Mariota had.
The pressures.
2 in this game and 6 for the season.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's good. Seattle's offensive line is trash, but Russell Wilson is a magician at avoiding the rush, getting outside the pocket and picking up yards. He's a magician.
I've been pumping him up for a few years. I mean, because they had a good running game and a good defense, he didn't get the credit he deserved. That guy is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he almost single-handedly kept them in this game. Because we were getting a lot of people I'm sure people look at the numbers and they say, oh, the Titans only sacked him once. We were getting pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were back there a lot, almost constantly. And he just kept making, that one play, he practically completed the pass as he was going to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh man, let's see the replay. Maybe his knee hit and it wasn't even close. I mean, he was just being tackled though and still made a great throw. But yeah, man, they got to do something for him because, it looks like they may have found their running back in Carson, but I just can't imagine going in. Yeah, with that offensive line, I guess I say I should be able to imagine it because it's what the Titans tried to do a few years ago when we started Mr. Patasi, Jamal's favorite O lineman. So we should know what that's like going into a season like that. But yeah,
What about
yeah, go ahead.
what about the play when Arapco bites? I mean, that was a sack for sure.
Yeah.
Rakpo, what now? It broke up on me. I don't know if it's gonna be on the end or not.
He had him dead to rights on the sack, and he started out
early in the game.
Yes,
for that one, right? Yeah.
Yes, I heard Malarkey say that they thought that if he wasn't so elusive, they would have had about 7 sacks in this game.
Yeah, and they said in the broadcast that Malarkey had told him, you can't get discouraged on him when you keep getting there and not getting the sack, because you just have to expect that with him. But yeah, so we can't finish this conversation without talking about the so-called demise of DeMarco Murray, because he came back in this game and really kind of put us all in our place a little bit. 14 carries, 115, 8.2 yards per carry. Of course, the big 75-yard one kind of skewed that. And
I thought he had some other good runs, though. It wasn't just that. He hit the hole, and he definitely looked a lot better.
Yeah, I rewatched the game today thinking that I'd watch it and say, 75-yard run, and then, not that great. But he was consistently falling forward, showing his good vision, showing the patience that makes him a good running back, and those things work together well. I was even thinking about outside the 75-yard run, you could say, well, he only averaged 3 yards a carry. Well, if he's consistently getting 3 yards and you're taking away the big run, 3 yards is pretty good. And rewatching the game, he was consistently getting yardage and falling forward for a couple of extra yards, made a couple of guys miss at times.
He consistently kept them in like 2nd and 6, and he was never a detriment to the offense, like I thought he was the first 2 games.
He was the first 2 games.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
And by the way, it wasn't just us 3. The entire analyst, fantasy football, Derrick Henry's the man. He's going to be taking over. And I think Murray probably heard a lot of that himself. Mm-hmm. After he had the touchdown run, he was super jacked. He more so than normal. He was like, letting it be known.
I'm honestly even more curious about the injury now than before, because I know right after the game, Jamal, you were kind of tweeting about maybe they should have never played him at all if it
worked out.
But
I'm uncomfortable.
What I was going to say, even as a follow-up to that, though, he fully practiced today.
Oh, I know. I was going to say the same thing. And you know
fully
what?
Practiced.
I listened to 104 yesterday, and they had a guy from Titans Radio on there, and they were like openly questioning if he was hurt. And the guy said, well, he never said he was hurt. He said he had a slight hamstring, and it was a precautionary type thing.
It just doesn't make sense.
I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm suspicious.
He had missed some practice.
You feel like he never had the hamstring flare up?
I think maybe he had, he was injured in preseason or whatever, but I think it's a delicate thing to give Henry all the carries in the second half. Murray was on the sideline with his helmet on, and they said he pulled himself from the game, but the quote I posted said that he agreed that he should be pulled from the game. It was just very weird.
Yeah, that could be. That could have been intended so many different ways. Like, he came to the sideline and said, "Yeah, I kind of felt it," and they said, "Oh, well, in that case, screw it, you're not going back in." He said, "Fine." There could be many different ways that unfolded, but the whole thing is weird. My take on it that you were referencing, John, is if he has truly his hamstring is not 100%.
Right.
We said it on the podcast last week, and I still 100% believe it. If his hamstring's not 100%, I didn't want him to play, and it worked out, right? But I can't believe, based on them saying he had a hamstring issue, and then he wasn't a full participant in various practices last week. I refuse to believe that his hamstring's 100%, in which case I get back to that feeling of if they're playing with fire if they're going to have a guy go out there with a hamstring injury. This isn't the type of injury that you want to play games with, and it just makes me nervous. It worked out this week, and they know the injury better than I do. They have so much more information than I do. The idea that they're doing that makes me uncomfortable.
They
And I
said it
hope it doesn't
was
burn us. Go ahead.
they said it was not any particular play. They said, it just precautionary. And then the fact he practiced today. Why would he practice today?
That's the thing for me. Exactly.
I actually thought they might hold him out of all the practices for a
Mhm.
couple of
That's what I
weeks
thought.
until
Exactly.
Friday. Let
Yeah.
him. And I think it's pretty clear that this is the split they're going to do if they can, if the game allows
50-50.
them.
Yeah.
They're going to let Henry. And Henry was injured in this game too, by the way. I
Yeah.
wondered how many carries he would have got in the first half because
That's
it happened in the first half. He had a thigh
Mhm.
contusion, and he went to the sideline too. I wonder if it still would have been like this had he not gotten banged up. I don't know.
We've talked a lot about on this show and on Titans Report, what's the ideal scenario for those guys? We've talked about how Malarkey traditionally he likes that premier back that he can feature. And in this game, like you said, we saw more of that 50-50 split, but it wasn't necessarily Murray gets a series, Henry gets a series. I think this game showed exactly how they want these guys to be used. They want to get a lead, and then in the fourth quarter, late third quarter, when you've got that lead, that's when you bring in Henry. And the defenses are tired. You've got the lead, and it's the last thing they want to see. And it was working. I mean, I think I even posted in the game thread. I was like, this
It
is beautiful to watch. Like this is
it
exactly
really is.
what you want to see. He's just pounding it, getting 3 yards here, 5 yards here, and
It's
they ended up
it
having to settle for three, I think, but it ran a lot of time off the clock.
it's more than that though. They need Murray when they're going to try to execute their full playbook because it's clear they do not want Henry. And they said it in the broadcast. They said they referenced his pass blocking and everything. And I think the problem is Murray's banged up. He probably can't handle another 300 carry season. So they can't make him the bell cow, and Henry has flaws in his overall game that they can't make him the bell cow. So they're going to have to do this split.
Which could work out in the best for all of us if it keeps going
I'm
like
fine with
this.
this will work if they can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they can do it. We were going through before the podcast, and I think it now isn't a bad time to discuss it. The fact that we've been able to keep the other team from scoring, at least early in this game, the first half we were able to stick with the run, even though it was doing nothing. Saw those stats going around this week as well. It's something like 16 runs for 25 yards or something crazy like that in the first half, or in the first half. And then the second half, we just turned it on. We're able to stick with the run because we're playing these terrible offenses. And I was thinking, wow, at some point we're going to play a team that scores points on us. And then I was thinking, well, and our run game, we came out of week one where Oakland was able to score at times and got ahead of us. And they said, yeah, we didn't want to pass as much as we ended up passing in that game. And so that's like the whole game flow where we're able to stick with the run since then because these other teams haven't been able to score on us. And if somebody else can score on us, then maybe it won't work out this way. Well, if you look at the offenses we're facing, what they've done so far this year is jack. I mean, it's terrible. We play the best offense we face for the rest of the year, going by yards per game, which is probably overrated, but that's how the NFL ranks them. The next best offense we play is the Rams at 7, and their offense is completely inflated from playing the 49ers and putting up like 10,000 yards.
I guess we can talk about the defense. I think the defense is better than what they showed in the second half of this game.
I hope so.
Well, first of all, one thing that killed them in the second half, everyone's talking about the Seahawks were worn out. The Titans were worn out too. The three touchdown drives,
After those big scores, the quick scores.
Yeah, exactly. The 3 touchdown drives combined was like less than 6 minutes. And they were one right after of course the Murray touchdown was 15 seconds, and they were 4 plays, 5 plays, and 1 play. And the defense is bad. They had as many defensive snaps as the Seahawks did. It was even. And they're chasing Russell Wilson around.
Yeah.
So I think they got tired too.
And also all those, I mean, we talked in the offseason about the special teams. How big has Adoree Jackson been?
Oh man,
Just his presence back there.
Bates
And
and Trawick as well. I mean,
yeah, on coverage. Yep, for sure.
the special teams as a whole is great. Our coverage is great. Kicking team is great. We're returning the ball well. Adoree Jackson is awesome.
He's got to get one soon, man. He's
Well, he's
so
had
close.
a couple of them.
Yeah.
It just
if Jackson was the fifth pick instead of Davis, nobody would be disappointed.
no,
He'd be living up to it.
absolutely. I'd be almost comfortable with it, even if he wasn't starting and playing much on defense yet. Just how well he's returning the ball. He's flipping the field at times. He is such a threat. They're going to start avoiding him completely.
Mm-hmm.
Like teams are just going to start going, we're kicking it out of bounds every time. Screw this.
They did it a little bit. Everyone's talking about the one that got called back, right? On the Jonnu Smith touchdown drive, he had a 22-yard punt return to start that drive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he started that drive with a great punt return.
I'm actually interested to see if at some point they do involve him in a couple of plays on offense.
I thought the same thing.
Because you get him the ball in space, and defenses are going to crap themselves.
You know what? I don't know why. I hadn't even thought about that till you mentioned it.
I was thinking about it.
Defenses crapping themselves?
Well, that, but using him on offense, yeah, it's kind of been a forgotten thought since the season started because they talked, they want him to learn cornerback and then return man.
He's got enough on his plate right now. But at some point, we're going to see it. May not even be this year.
He's also gotten way better at cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely come a long way since the Raider game.
Yeah, and it's all these little things too. I was just pulling up our penalty. We were only penalized 5 times this game, 45 yards. And I'm pretty sure the penalties have been pretty low in all 3 of our games so far this season. We're not turning the ball over. All those little things that we talked about in the offseason about, I mean, they were a 9-7 team last year, and we talked about just these little things. Literally, the Texans game, the first time we played the Texans last year, was decided with a punt return. I mean, that's what won the game for the Texans, the punt return touchdown. So it's all these little things are starting to add up. And then when you consider the fact that the offense seems to be taking a big leap forward, it's easy to see why, I mean, so many people are getting excited about this team. And now, I mean, as we shift gears looking to next week, as great as the Seahawks win is, this next one is far more important. And we said if the Titans could come out of these first 4 2-2, that wouldn't be bad, especially if it's beating the Jags and Texans. But if they can come out 3-1, beating the Jags and Texans, I mean, that is huge. I mean, the focus all offseason with us as fans and Malarkey with the team has been they've got to beat division teams. They can't keep splitting like they've been doing. They have to win these division games. And we're going in against a team that had a really close loss against the Patriots. They
probably should have won.
Yeah, probably should have. And if, Brady still Brady, so he had that last drive left in him. But yeah, I mean, this is a quality team. We saw them get blown off the field in week 1 against the Jags, and I think a lot of that probably had to do with the quarterback and with their line. But then Deshaun Watson's kind of he's ignited them a little bit. They believe in the guy. The fans are excited, and it's going to be a challenge. It's in Houston, so you know how important that game always is for the Titans when they play in Houston. But this is a huge opportunity. I think easily the most important game of the year so far, and I think it's the one that is really going to show us has this team really turned the corner, in my opinion. Right. Are they ready to take that step to being the front runner in this division? Or is it going to be one of those things that, we kind of have to battle out, and maybe at the end the Texans lose enough and we win a game? And yeah, I mean, this game is huge for a number of reasons, and let's break it down, guys. I mean, what are you expecting to see here? The defense the Texans put on the field is a really solid defense, but I don't know if it's as good as the defense we just played this week.
It's not. They have a lot of injuries in their secondary too. And I'll tell you something else. I listened to a lot of the breakdowns after the game, and I listened to a lot of the Patriots-Texans game. that game told way more about the Patriots defense than it
Hmm.
did the Texans. That is the first time preseason or the first two games that Watson has not looked terrible. He
Mm-hmm.
had 4 to 5 seconds to pass the ball, and they didn't blitz him. They purposely played coverage. He is not going to have. They have a terrible offensive line too, the
Yeah.
Texans. He's not going to have near that much time, and I think they had a pretty good go at it with a mobile quarterback last week.
Yep.
That's way better than Watson. So I actually think they'll handle the Texans pretty easy.
It's a different kind of mobile quarterback, though, because Russell Wilson, even when he starts scrambling around, he's still got eyes downfield, whereas Watson is scrambling around to try and
Get
scramble
yardage.
around and get huge chunks of yards.
Yeah, which is not nearly as scary as what Russell Wilson can do. I'm much more afraid of a guy throwing a 60-yard touchdown pass after he ran.
Yeah, I feel like Watson is one of the. It's just a wild card. Is he going to get a big play or two that's just kind of fluky? You think of who was it that did it to us with some big runs? Was it Tyrod Taylor? Where I don't feel like he was that great, but then all of a sudden he's just like pulling these runs out of his butthole, and it's like, okay, well, I guess if you're going to do that, then you can move the offense down the field.
I just think that their offense, after 3 games, it's only 3 games, so I don't know much. The Patriots are on pace to have the worst defense in NFL history.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's where it's just interesting because you can get to a point if we lose this next game, like you were saying, John. It's you want to be able to come out of this and say, okay, we really are the front runner. You could write a narrative. If we lose this game, then you can just look and say, Blake Bortles made so many mistakes against us that we were able to beat the Jags, and the Jags kind of suck anyway. And then Seattle, they've got a bad offensive line, and we had a home game, and you can start downplaying what we've done, and then you just say it's same old Titans. Sure, you win a couple of games, you can beat the Jags, but you can't beat anyone else. Andrew Luck's coming back week 6. He's going to beat up. You can start getting real negative. We got to take this game and just take control of it.
Yep.
I agree. A loss here would totally erase the joy of beating the Seahawks.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, I'm kind of with you, Scotty. I usually regret this every time I say it, so I hesitate to even say it on the podcast, but I already posted on the board, and right now I just feel like oddly confident about this game.
It's not odd. We've looked good.
Yeah.
Look at this team. It is built well. They've filled holes over the last couple of years. I was thinking about it, and it's just like, where are we truly bad? Just in terms of roster, not even utilization or scheme, just in terms of the roster. We've got quality at basically everywhere.
You have to nitpick to find flaws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think you can still say wide receivers a work in progress, but that's because you've added so much just this year, and your biggest investment in Davis is injured. So to a certain extent, that doesn't even count.
You could say interior offensive line, but they've played so well.
Right. Before the season, I would have said that they're not truly a strength. But so far, I mean, they certainly seem like one.
Close to the dominant offensive line. Yeah.
Even though it sounds crazy, you could actually kind of say running back because Murray's injured / slowed down, and Henry's not a great pass blocker. But once again, nitpicking.
Yeah. So that's just where I think we're at a point where unless we start getting lots of injuries piling up, or we start showing weaknesses that we just haven't seen yet and we're not aware of, we're a solid team across the board, and especially the 3 phases of the game. Special teams is a true strength right now, the way they're performing. Yeah. And that shouldn't surprise anyone because they intentionally built the roster, went out and got off-season acquisitions to make special teams a focus.
First day free agency. Remember all the laughter and the jokes?
But those are guys that are performing. They're going
exactly.
They're going downfield and getting those tackles. They're solid. And so I don't think it's that strange. It's just we're not used to it yet, right?
Yeah.
Dodd has kind of been a disappointment, but number 53, Walden has He's been good. So he's made up for the disappointment of Dodd.
And anytime you're looking for the objective view, we always like to look at Vegas, right? And the Titans opened as 1-point favorites on the road, and looks like it has since actually moved in their direction slightly. So most places I'm seeing they're favored by 2 or 1.5.
People are going crazy over Watson, what he did against the Patriots. I think they're overrating what he did against the Patriots.
So you don't even think it should be that close, the line? Because they're actually favoring the Titans by 1 on the road.
Well, I think it opened up at like 2, didn't it, or something like that? Or maybe that was before the season.
I'm looking at like Vegas Insider. It says that it opened at -1 in favor of the Titans.
And what is it now? Still 1?
Most places it looks like it's -1.5. Some places -2 now.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what I think. I think the more people look at the game like what we're talking about, I think more people think the Titans will win. One of the things about the Texans, they got J.J. Watt and Clowney. First of all, J.J. Watt has not shown anything like he was. So he hasn't had a sack in 5 games, I think I saw.
Really? He hasn't had a sack in 4 games, and he's never went 5 games without a sack.
You're right. That was it.
This one, yeah. Hopefully we can make it 5.
Who played against Houston in the first game last year? Was it Mariota? Must have been.
Yeah. Mariota only missed the last game and a half.
Yeah, he only missed the last game against the Texans.
No, it was the second one that he missed then.
Yeah.
Because you look at how many times we've lost to them, but it's basically like Zach Mettenberger.
Well, yeah, the year before that he was hurt in one of the Texans games too. Maybe both of them.
They have a lot of injuries in their secondary too, and Clowney's not doing nothing against Taylor Lewan.
and they lost AJ Bouye as well. You know, he's with the Jags now. So
go back. We didn't even talk, John, when you were mentioning the Texans games. You mentioned the first game and this last game. They were putrid against the Bengals, and
they barely won against that.
You know, so I'm not ready to say that they're. I don't think they're as good as the Jaguars or the Seahawks.
Outside of the game against us, the Jaguars look like the best defense in NFL history. It's insane.
If Bortles doesn't screw the game up, I think the Jaguars are a very good team. But, I mean, that's a big if that's your quarterback you're worried about screwing up. And I think the Ravens were totally frauds.
London is just weird. London and Thursday Night Football I hate. Like, they just turn games into weird wild card. You don't know what you're going to get.
It's amazing in our little eliminator challenge or survivor or whatever you call it. Almost all of us were eliminated this week, but because there were 3. I mean, the 3 main picks were Green Bay, the Eagles, and then the Patriots, and all 3 of those games ended up going down the wire.
And the Steelers lost to the Bears. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was another one. Yeah, so let's go ahead, Jamal.
I was just going to say,
wrap it up here.
I had a friend get me into when I was bored in an airport. He was asking me about his DraftKings team. And so I was like, let me throw $20 on here. And when I lose it all, I'll just never do it again. And so I've been listening to podcasts for daily fantasy football stuff. And before last week games, people were making the point of there were a ton of road favorites. And there were even road favorites going from like West Coast to East Coast. And they were talking about how that just historically is dangerous. And it was sort of interesting how it played out then. You had a lot of home dogs winning in the NFL. I thought that was interesting, speaking of Chicago.
Huh. Yeah, that is. Well, to kind of wrap it up here, I think we like to end the show by taking a look at the schedule, what the Titans have ahead. So we talked about the Texans this week, and that wraps up the first quarter of the season. So if they get a win there, they'd be at 3-1. And in the next 3 games before the bye, so we've got a 2-game road stretch here at the Texans, then at the Dolphins. Then they get the Colts on Monday Night Football. A lot of rumors going around that could be Andrew Luck's return. So it'd be interesting to see what he looks like, because I mean the guy is still not practicing.
Ugly. So I mean, no matter what his arm looks like, he's an ugly
throwing
man.
Shoulder. Well, I'm thinking it's his throwing shoulder. If he steps back onto the field and beats the Titans, then it's just I don't know that we'll ever beat the guy with the roster they have. But then they go at the Browns, and then we have our bye week. So week 8, almost right dead in the middle of the season, and then Ravens, Bengals, Steelers. So that's 2 home games against Ravens and Bengals, and at the Steelers, then at the Colts, then Texans, at the Cardinals, at 49ers, Rams, Jags. I mean, guys, this we talked about this first quarter really being kind of the teeth of the schedule, the tough part of the schedule. And man, how awesome it would be to emerge from that at 3-1.
2 road division wins, assuming they beat the Texans too. If you
Exactly.
could get two
Yep.
road wins in the division. That's another thing I want to say about the Texans. You know the way they talked about the division games, that Malarkey is not going to let them get too excited about the Seahawks win, because they want to win division games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you also don't want to lose. Division obviously is AFC, but we already lost to Oakland. You don't want to let your losses start piling up in the AFC side and have your wins be Seattle type teams where it doesn't even help you in the playoff race for tiebreakers.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, you look at that schedule, you already talked about the offenses, Jamal. You look at the offenses down that list, not a lot there. Not a lot there at all.
I only referenced the Rams earlier, but so far this year in 3 games is sometimes can be a mirage, but the remaining offenses are ranked 7, 12, 16, 22, 24, 24, 27, 29, 31, 32. There are a ton of terrible offenses left on our schedule, which then you look at how we've been beating teams where if those teams don't score on us, we can just run teams into the dirt. And it really sets up well for the type of game flow that we want.
Yep.
People have said this feels like the early 2000s. This feels like Fisher Ball. In many ways, it is. I mean,
I think the offense is so much better than that, though. They can attack so many different ways now, and they're going to get Corey Davis back eventually, and Taylor's going to get better. Jonnu Smith. How good is Jonnu Smith? I mean, that is why some people, including me,
playing a ton of snaps.
This is why I wanted OJ Howard, because he could play, and he can do everything OJ Howard was supposed to do. So, what a great draft pick.
And one thing we nearly forgot to talk about. I mean, I think we all said in Mariota, we thought he played well, but how about those hard snap counts, man? I think we got him to jump 5 times, Malarkey said, and there were more times when they flinched. But that's just one of those underrated kind of intangibles that's just not talked about a lot. And Malarkey even said they did that to slow down how aggressive they are, because they know it's a really aggressive defense. So if you keep them second guessing the snap count constantly, even if it slows them for just half a second, that's huge. And man, Mariota is so good at that. And that's something that just doesn't get talked about enough, really, with him.
It's something when we haven't had it in the past that you watch other games, you're like, why can't, like, that is such an advantage. All these great quarterbacks are always, the hard counter, Aaron Rodgers getting free plays against opponents.
Yep.
The Matthews touchdown was a free play, right?
That's right. Yep.
And I think when you get those opportunities, it's just a big bonus.
They also converted a 3rd and 1 in which Murray was stopped for a loss that turned into a first down because they were offsides.
Well, they ended the game that way too, almost, right?
Yeah, they did.
The punt.
Yeah,
but
they got the first down. That's right.
Man.
Yeah. I was gonna say, by the way, also on Jonnu Smith, it's not just that he's playing a lot, right? He's had those couple of touchdowns. This is the type of thing that, depending on coaches, some coaches just would not be calling those plays to go to a rookie, right? They just wouldn't feel that level of comfort. And so kudos to the staff for setting him up for those plays where he's been successful.
They haven't lost anything in the run game by losing Fasano and putting him in there. And they've added just a dangerous element in the passing game. So
Yeah.
I actually think, Davis. I think Davis is going to be a good receiver, but I'm not sure he can make the impact as far as the added dimension that Jonnu Smith adds to the offense. I mean, he caught a screen, he caught a touchdown pass from fullback, and he can play tight end. I mean, and he blocked
Right.
Bennett. He blocked Bennett on some of those run plays. I saw him blocking Michael Bennett and wasn't getting blown up.
We talked about it last week as well. The option game for us, when you see the play breakdowns from Baldinger, or I don't know if you guys saw the one that I put in the Baldinger thread from
Yeah, that was good.
inside the pylon, where they're just
Yeah.
breaking down. We're running triple options out here. Like, is this a college offense or what? Like, it's insane. The fact that we are able to do that and we're so good at it. Marcus is so good at diagnosing it. We talked about it last week. So many of our big plays are coming off of that sort of stuff. And there's been some sort of debate on TitansReport.com, I know, where some people are saying the Titans run game is the hardest to prepare for in the NFL. And some people, I guess, objected to that a bit vociferously. But regardless of whether or not they are the hardest, they're hard because the option plays are run so well. And we are showing, Scotty, maybe you can address that thread where you said, on the Jonnu Smith touchdown, I think it was that drive where we had so much going on that set it up well for what happened.
Right. They were in the I formation like 3 or 4 plays in a row leading up to it. They ran the end around to Taylor so many times, which that was part of the play too. And Henry had just ran downhill 2 or 3 times in a row, and they were definitely planning this. And it was just the perfect time to play it, and everything just fell into place. It's so easy to see why he was so wide open. And they had a heavy set out there with Kelly. So the Seahawks had their base defense out there with their strong side linebacker, and he can't cover Jonnu Smith, especially when he's running up to stop the run when they snap the ball.
And that's the type of thing, though, that the next time they line up like that, defenses are going to be questioning it even more. Oh, crap. Do I want to commit to the run? This could be another one of those plays.
You have to
just becomes very difficult.
You have to stop Derrick Henry running downhill for 6 to 8 yards before you do anything else anyway. So, that was the very foundation of the play anyway. So adding the other stuff, I think the Titans run game is definitely the hardest to prepare for because Mariota is such a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Terry Robisky, guys.
Hey, seriously, he really is him and Malarkey. I mean, what they're designing is pretty radical.
In the NFL, I mean, just the triple option stuff was cracking me up. And they're doing so many things where they've got, they're not going just single back offense. They've got, multiple guys in the backfield, at multiple running backs on the field at the same time.
Yep.
Just they're constantly doing things, just giving you different looks. You have to prep for all of those. It just becomes very difficult.
I can't imagine how you can plan for it, really. I mean, you'd have to just try to just do some basic defense or something. How about the play where they did the option stuff and he passed it to Delaney?
Walker, that was open.
Hey, he was going to get at least a first down and possibly 15 to 20 yards.
Yeah, early in the game, right?
Yes, and it was another well-designed play that it just wasn't executed good.
Yeah, just a little bit low, I think, if I remember right.
I was going to.
Yeah, go ahead.
And now I've lost that train of thought. It was right before.
About the Delaney pass. That was
right before that.
I'll add to that Corey Davis hasn't even been a part of the offense yet. Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. Man.
Once imagine the Seahawks game, but instead of Decker, it's Corey Davis, and obviously he's going to have to get in sync, but that's a whole nother dimension. And Mariota's going to keep getting better. He's getting better still. So by the end of the year, barring no injuries, rash of injuries, or something, they could have an even better offense than what they have now.
I know it's crazy. Like you look at the stats right now, but then consider the defenses they've faced. If you're looking for like a fantasy player to explode as the year goes on, or an offense to I mean, you got to look at the Titans and Mariota, because right now he's having to be so careful protecting the football, making sure they don't have any turnovers against these big time defenses, that when we start going up against teams like the Colts defense and the Browns defense and all these other defenses basically that we have left, look out, man. Look out. Especially if Davis gets back in the mix too.
Yeah, and Taylor's going to get better. He's going to get better.
All right, guys. I think it's time to wrap it up. Always much more fun when the Titans have a win that we can talk about. So luckily we've had 2 in a row this year. So hopefully we'll have another one next week. And seems to be that Wednesday is going to be the best day to work for us this year. So you can look for the podcast usually Thursday morning, late Wednesday evening if you're a night owl and looking for it at that point. But like I said, we are the official podcast of TitansReport.com. You can find us online, of course, at TitansReport.com. You can find us on Twitter at TitansReport. There's also a Facebook page, Facebook.com/TitansReport. And we are on pretty much any podcast service you could want: iTunes, Stitcher, Android. Check us out there. Feel free to rate and review us if you'd like as well. And we appreciate all of you listening. We'll talk to you all again very soon.